The Stone Centre, UBC, was created to be a hub for research, for education and training, and for engagement surrounding inequality research, but in particular wealth inequality. Our mission is really to generate research into the causes and consequences of wealth and other inequality, and to potentially, hopefully, be part of finding solutions to the negative impacts of inequality. That's where we're trying to go. To do that, there's sort of three prongs, right? There's an education element, there's a network element. We're trying to build a real deep network of scholars that builds on itself, and then there's the research and data element, and you'll hear a bunch of the research part today. At this point, as the Dean said, we're a year in. I think we can plausibly say that we've accomplished some good things in all of those areas so far, but a lot of it is aspirational necessarily at this point. But we've also set the logistics up. We've set up the sort of the physical plant, all of the financial arrangements, the human resource part, and all of that, what we've accomplished in the sort of first three elements, and then the logistics, all of that is absolutely not possible without Priscilla. It all comes down to Priscilla. For everybody else in this room, if you don't know Priscilla, you want to know Priscilla. So let me talk about these different sort of streams or prongs that I was talking about. The first one is education. At this point, we have over 30 Stone Fellows, students who are engaged in the questions about inequality. Those are break down into Master's Fellows. And we were talking about last night, we're very actually proud of our master's program. In the US, there are master's programs that have sort of come up recently that are more like kind of money-generating puppy mills. And we view ours as something that we've had for generations. It's very, very much part of our teaching mission. And to take it and take at least part of it and focus it in on inequality is a big thing for us. And we're quite proud of our students. We're quite proud of them partly because they go out in the world and have the impact, right? They're the seeds, they're the expander. There are also MA Thesis Fellows. Those are some of the master students who stick around and do further research of their own and work as RAs. So they go even one step deeper. Then we've got the pre-doctoral fellows. They're fully engaged in the research, again, with the idea that we get the discussions going here that lead into having expanded impacts in the rest of the world. And the PhD students, who are the seed to have more impact, but through research channels by and large. That's where most of them are going, some into the private sector, but most going there. And then the postdoctoral fellows, and that's kind of the other way around. We're hoping that we contribute to their research to some degree, but really what we're doing is bringing in cutting edge people that we can learn from ourselves, and you're going to see that when you hear from Linda later on. The second part, as I said, the sort of second prong is the network, and it consists of only the three of us. So when we got the opportunity, the very fortunate call to offer us the opportunity to apply for a Stone Centre, it was the three of us who sort of started putting things together, but almost immediately, of course, given the richness of the VSE, we reach out to all of our other colleagues who come at inequality from a sort of impressive array of angles. But also immediately, we knew, of course, that the only way to do this effectively was to move well beyond economics and try to get broader perspectives. And so we have affiliates. We have colleagues from political science, from sociology, from philosophy, from psychology, from business, and from law, all involved. And some of these are people, some of this is sort of deepening connections that we already had. Some of it is looking around campus and saying, that's a person we would really like to play with. And honestly, part of what you all have given us is that opportunity, a place for us to actually get together and work on things that cut across some of the lines that we all, sometimes don't always work on. One of our next steps, or the sort of forward-looking part, is to think about how to make that more than just names on a masthead. So we're going to start this fall taking a page out of the book from the UCL Stone Centre, having Stone Centre Research Breakfast where people come and give talks sort of informally. And as I was saying to somebody out on the balcony, either we're going to find the best croissant in all of Vancouver. There's French people in Vancouver, so there can be good croissants, just saying. And we're going to, so the idea is to basically get everyone together just in an informal way so that people can start talking together. And then we're going to have a 2-day symposium in January to bring together. And then one of the big ideas we have is we're going to open up the opportunity for groups of scholars on themes, not disciplines, to have one-day workshops, bring people together, potentially bring people from the outside with money on the table saying, if you want to put together a research agenda, we're going to fund it. And that, actually, the last part, that's one of Priscilla's ideas, one of Priscilla's many good ideas. So that's kind of where we're going to try to make it really a more integrative network. Then we have, beyond UBC, networks reaching out across Canada. So we are helping to fund and to form the agendas on conferences. For example, the Canadian Labour Economics Forum. That has a component, obviously, there's a big part of inequality, the labor economist study, but part of our goal is to get shifts towards thinking about wealth inequality, which is always something that hasn't been on the agenda as much, but we're trying to move to put on the agenda. The UBC Berkeley Political Economy Development seminar or workshop conference, and that brings in the elements that I know that Jim's written about, that is the impacts through political economy, the way inequality moves, who shifts the levers of power. And Vince, fortunately, the political scientist, is shaking his head, is nodding his head. That's good. And then other ones like the Vienna World Conference, which is a macro conference. So we're basically working to integrate in those ways. And then the other element is the connections with the rest of the Stone network. And we've already made some moves in that regard. Next, just to let everybody else know, next summer we're going to have a summer school / workshop joint with University of Chicago. It's going to be a home and home series, so we're going to have that workshop here next August, and then the following summer it'll be in Chicago. We already have quite strong connections with the UCL Center, and my guess is that's going to become deeper. We're going to look for ways. One of our goals is to be one of the centers that really tries to help bring the other centers together. And we think that if we just send them pictures of Vancouver, that might help. And then the last part is the research. We in the first round of funding funded 10 studies. Some of that is what you're going to hear about today. But then the other part is data. And as you well know, it's a sticking point when it comes to wealth, because there's much more easily accessible income data. That's certainly the truth in Canada. And so part of what we're doing is reaching out essentially across Canada to try to find ways to help develop wealth data. So one of our former students, Gail Simard-Duplan, who's at University of Ottawa, actually one of her chapters of her thesis was about developing wealth data. And so now we've reached out to her and started talks to sort of start working on a real project to bring that data together. She's actually also working with Marie Connolly at UQAM on an intergenerational wealth transmission. So that's all part of what we're trying to do. And it sort of shows you that both the power of the other two parts too, right? It's the students. Gail was one of our former students, and the sort of network. And the network in Canada is dense, and we're going to try to bring it and make it even denser and focus it on these issues. That's it. I think that's sort of the broad overview of where we're at and where we're going in broad terms.